Would 2.5 grand a month take you out of your job and give you freedom to be able to build your property business? How about doing it in the next 4 months? Would that work? Watch till the end of this video and you might just be able to do that. So off air, a bit random this one, but the cameraman has just pulled me and asked how can he get into rent to rent. So I thought, sod it, let's get the cameras rolling and he can quiz me any question he wants and I'm going to teach him how he can get into rent to rent and make 2.5 grand a month in the next 4 months.
So it's perfect because I actually make 30 grand a year, and the way that you describe it, it sounds so easy, but I've never heard of this. So what is rent to rent?
In brief, rent to rent is where we take a property off a landlord and then we will super rent it. So we either run it as a serviced accommodation unit known as Airbnb for most, or we then rent each room out in the property for a standard AST fee. So i.e. we have 5 rooms, we'll have 5 different tenants in the house, all paying a room rent per person. Ultimately the cash coming into the property is a lot more than the rent and we make our profit in the middle.
And with something like that, how quickly can I get that set up? I've got no experience. I don't have a flat I could rent out.
So most people know the mortgage process, and that can be anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months to acquire a property, buy it, deposit, conveyance and solicitors. With rentals, it's just like you going to rent a flat now for you and your girlfriend, and you can agree it tonight, tomorrow, sign the contracts and get it over and done with. You can move in, you get it furnished, you want to limit the downtime on it, because ultimately when you start paying money on it, you're burning money and you've got to get it set up as quick as you possibly can. But we can do it within 24-48 hours and we can have them fully furnished, advertised online and start to take bookings. My first ever Airbnb unit, I didn't even know what Airbnb was, so I was having a chat with my friend and he was doing it. He told me about it. I was struggling to get property rented out, so I drove to IKEA that afternoon, furnished it, took photographs on my iPhone and had 3.5 grand's worth of bookings within the next 5 days. So it can happen very quick overnight.
I think my worry would be that when I did the first one, how do you get past the first one? I'd be worried I'd get very caught up in just doing that one and dealing with those bookings. Like, I'd be worried about how I scaled it. What did you do?
Yeah, so I think, and this is what I kind of advise all my clients as well, is it's good to get your feet wet or your fingers dirty, whatever the expression is, and that allows you to figure out what you want in your processes in your business. So some people want to be hands-on. For me, that's not a scalable model. I don't think you can scale quickly if you want to do the DIY, do the furniture pack setups, run the operations, deal with the guests. But I think it's crucial to do that in the beginning so you understand how it all works, and then from that you formulate your plan on how you're going to deal with guests, or who you're going to get to deal with guests, and what times do they deal with them, how do they speak to them, how do they check in, check out, because there's loads of different avenues. With your rent-to-rent HMO type stuff, it's a lot easier. You basically just need to find a tenant and put them in and then deal with any issues that come through the tenancy. They're not as dependent like a guest, where they'll be, coming to a brand new property for maybe 2-3 days, and then every 2-3 days there's a brand new person coming to a brand new property. So I quickly discovered that you needed information on boilers, how to turn the lights on, how to work the lockbox. The simplest of things that you think are easy, obviously they're not. It's a brand new property. It's I remember when I bought my newest house, going into the property, I was texting the old vendor just saying, how does the lights work? How does the heating system work? So you gotta make sure you got those processes in place. But to scale, I think 2 to 3 properties, that's all you need, and then you start leveraging all those tasks out and start focusing on the revenue generating actions in the business, which is finding more properties, acquiring more stock, dealing with more landlords, building more relationships with estate agents, that sort of thing.
And without sounding defeatist, what happens when it goes wrong? I'd be very worried about getting a bad review on my first one and my first guest while I was learning. How do I try and get through the bad reviews to get to, inevitably, it's a learning process, to where I've got lots of properties where everyone's enjoying it? How did you do that?
I think Reviews it's coming on the 80-20 rule, which I am a firm believer in. 20% of guests, no matter what you do for them, no matter how nice your places are, they're going to whinge. Like, that's just, it's the 80-20 rule. But 80% of them are going to be good, 80% of them are going to be well behaved, and it's all about finding the right deal. So if you rent the right property, you've got it for the right price, and you've done your analysis, then you'll know that the location works, and you'll have no problem in the profitability of that operation. There'll be swings, especially with serviced accommodation. With HMOs, it's a bit more consistent. You have tenancy changes. You've got to remember as well that in HMOs, the tenants aren't going to stay for as long as, let's say, you know, a normal tenant in a single let house might. Sometimes they're in there for years, you know, decades. A HMO tenant is typically a young professional who is maybe moving to a city to find their feet with their first job, or maybe they've done a relocation with work, and they're kind of using it as a bit of a stopgap until they know where they want, and then they'll go and find their own single let type property. Typically anywhere from 9 to 14 months is the transition. Typically anywhere from 9 to 14 months is the transition period for tenants in HMOs. So you are moving them through, but it's not as quick as obviously the serviced accommodation, which is, you know, every week, you're probably every 2 or 3 nights you turning. So in terms of reviews, you do your best, and I think, you know, as long as your properties are, you know, livable, they're a home away from home, you've got all the, you know, main things that they need, kettles, toasters, you know, working fridges, they can get in and out easily, and basically it's a hassle-free experience for them, then you'll not get a bad review. I don't think anyone intentionally wants to give a bad review. If you have run-down properties and you don't take care of the guests, they're stood outside in the rain trying to get in, they don't know, you know, you've got bad systems in place to be able to get them information on how they get in and get out, or you're doing a meet and greet service and you don't actually show up on time, then you're going to naturally get a bad review. So as long as you tick most of the boxes of just a standard organised business, then you should be alright. Whilst I've still got your attention, if you're enjoying this video content, then there's plenty more where it came from. Don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe to the channel. And there's links in the description which give you other videos exactly like this one to help you on your property journey.
And do you have, like, is there more information on this? Like, have you got a website, or is there?
Yeah, so, you know, there's plenty. The best thing I've got really, and this is where the deals all start, is my deal analyzer. So I built this from, you know, it's just a glorified spreadsheet really, but it's full of formulas, and it calculates. I have a red and green light system. So based on what the rent is, plus the average nightly rates, or the rents that would get per room, including all the bills and the seasonal trends, it then tells me green, yes, invest, or red, don't invest. Or I can reduce the rent down until it goes green, and then I know that that's the price I need to offer to the landlord, and try and negotiate on that price to make it work. So it's that tool saved me not only hours of analysis time, because now it's like a few boxes filled in and it pings all the information, as opposed to writing it all down on a bit of paper, or you know, typing it all into a spreadsheet each time. So, but it also keeps me firmly in focus, so I'm purely invested in numbers. There's no emotion involved in it, which can, you know, you right now, if you leave this recording session and then you go out tomorrow and you say, right, I'm going to do this based on all the advice you've heard today, then you might emotionally get wrapped up that you've got to find your first deal, and your first deal typically isn't normally your best deal because of that emotional engagement with it. So the numbers just make it a pure rational decision. You know, it's either yes or no based on the numbers and nothing else. You know, and it's served me well. So it's saved me probably tens of thousands over the years as a management.
Just so I know, is there anywhere else that you have information? I know it's been a good video, but I am just a bit nervous about it. Is there like more resources that you have, or like where else could I find out a bit more about this? Yeah, sure.
So I, you know, support clients. You know, one of the things I do is business consultancy now. So using my experience and just delivering everything that's worked for me. I've kind of wrapped it all up in a program, and over 90 days we support clients to go from where you're at right now to that $2,500 a month within the 90 days really. So the promise of the program is to get 5 properties, rent-to-rent style properties, cash flowing by the end of the 90 days. And you put the work in, you follow the model, then you get the results. It's as simple as that. but you know, you've got to put the work in. You know, this isn't a get rich quick scheme, and you know, but it can be very lucrative quite quickly. But it's not just a case of, you know, do one thing and then all of a sudden you're going to have a property portfolio overnight. It needs work, and you've got to invest the time and the energy into it. But if you do enough of it, then you know, quite quickly it scales. The numbers are good, so you can quite easily take a HMO on and make $1,000 a month. You know, you only need 2-3 of them, and all of a sudden you've replaced your income from, you know, doing your camera stuff, and you're away. Then the great thing about it is that the time freedom that it gives you back. So you know, you don't have to get up every morning and push that, you know, drive that model. It's just waiting every month for that rent to come in, and as long as you set up properly, that rent will come in. So I'm a firm believer that you should always have various revenue streams in your business, but they should all generate money whilst you sleep. And that is the key for me to being not financially free for me. I think time freedom is better than financial freedom. Being able to choose what you want to do, where you want to do it from, wherever you want to do it from. And property does that by giving you that money while you sleep income, and it occurs every single month.
And do you honestly think, and no sales pitch, if I went this ahead with you within 90 days, 4 months, I could honestly make £2,500?
Yeah, 100%.
And you've done that with other people?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we have clients, about 90% of the students that come on board and actually engage will find at least 1, if not 2 rent deals, and they're set up within the first 2 to 3 weeks. You know, they're out the blocks. I don't focus too much on strategy, and you know, it's not a course, it's a consultancy, but what we focus on is taking action to get results. You know, and that's the key. Generate revenue into the business. We can figure out the rest of the strategy stuff, the organizational stuff we talked about earlier in the video. We can figure all that out later on down the line. Right now, what we need to do is acquire property, and that's what we focus on at the beginning. And by doing that, we then get the property, and then we focus on the operational stuff further down the line. That doesn't necessarily generate any revenue. What I find most courses do is they give all the strategy, and they teach how to do all the operations, but they don't focus on like, how do we just generate revenue? You know, if knowledge was the deciding factor, then everybody that went on a course would be a millionaire. You know, knowledge is about 20% of what's needed. It's the 80% of business acumen that makes the difference, I think. Thanks for watching this video. There's plenty more awesome content where this came from. As I said, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and continue watching the videos. And if you really want to get ahead of the game, then join my private Facebook group. Just head over to Facebook, 7-Figure Property Empire. Click the link to join, and we'll get you on the inside.